Hey everyone, my name is Will Valida. I'm a software engineer and cloud architect, and in this video, we're going to be talking about applying prompt engineering techniques in Azure OpenAI. In a previous video, I talked about how we can use Azure OpenAI to build NLP applications by using prompts. So in this video, we're going to take a deeper dive into what prompt engineering is, what makes a good prompt, and how we can use effective prompts in Azure OpenAI. Large language models are single models trained on huge amounts of data that can generate text, images, code, and creative content based on the most likely continuation of the prompt. Prompt engineering is the process of designing and optimizing prompts to better utilize large language models. Designing effective prompts is critical to the success of prompt engineering, and it can significantly improve the AI model's performance based on specific tasks. By providing relevant, specific, unambiguous, and well structured prompts, we can help the model better understand the context and generate more accurate responses. Prompt engineering can also help mitigate bias and improve fairness in AI models. By designing prompts that are diverse and inclusive, we can ensure that the model isn't biased towards a particular group or perspective. In addition, prompt engineering can help us understand which references the model should use to generate its response. Large language models have a large amount of parameters, and the logic it follows is largely unknown to users, so it can be confusing how it arrives at the response that it provides back to our users. By designing prompts that are easy to understand and interpret, we can help humans better understand how the model is generating its responses, which is particularly important in domains such as healthcare, where it's critical to understand how models are making decisions. Just a reminder, as with all AI models, no matter how good of a prompt you can design, responses from AI models should never be taken as fact or completely free from bias. Always ensure that you're using AI responsibly. Azure OpenAI models are capable of generating responses to natural language queries with remarkable accuracy. However, the quality of the responses depends largely on how well we write our prompts. We can optimize the performance of Azure OpenAI models by using different techniques in our prompts, resulting in more accurate and relevant responses. By asking the Azure OpenAI model clearly for what we want is one way to get the desired results. By being as descriptive as possible, the model can generate a response that most closely matches what we're looking for. How instructions are formatted can also impact how the model interprets the prompt. Recency bias can affect models where information located towards the end of the prompt can have more influence on the output than the information at the beginning. You may get better responses by repeating the instructions at the end of the prompt and assessing how that affects the generated response. We can also include content for the model to use to respond with and to produce answers with greater accuracy. We can group this content into two groups: primary and supporting content. Primary content refers to the content that is the subject of the query, such as a sentence to translate or an article to summarize. Supporting content is the content that may alter the response, but isn't the focus or subject of the prompt. Examples of this include things like names, preferences, future dates to include in the response, and so on. Providing supporting content allows the model to respond more completely, accurately, and be more likely to include the desired information. And finally, we can use cues to help prompt our model. Cues are leading words for the model to build upon and can often help shape the response in the right direction. We often use cues with instructions, and cues are particularly helpful if we're prompting the model for tasks such as code generation. By providing context to the AI model, it allows the model to better understand what you're asking for and what it should know to provide the best answer. Context can be provided in several ways. The first way that we can do this is by specifying the structure of our output. This could include something like asking the model to cite their sources, write a response as an email, format the response as a SQL query, classify sentiment into a specific structure, and so on. So take this following example. In this query, I'm asking my large language model to produce a table in Markdown with 6 football teams in it, along with their location and country. Because we've requested a response in a specific output, the large language model has returned to me 6 football teams along with their location and country using a Markdown table. Another thing that we can do or use is use a system message. The system message is included at the beginning of a prompt and is designed to give the model instructions, perspective to answer from, or any other information helpful to the model to help guide its response. This system message might include tone or personality or topics that shouldn't be included, or specifics on how to format the answer. System messages can significantly change the response, both in format and content. Try defining a clear system message for the model that explains exactly the kind of response you expect, and what you do or don't want it to include. Along with the system message, other messages can be provided to the model to enhance the conversation. Conversation history enables the model to continue responding in a similar way, including the tone or formatting, and it allows the user to reference previous content in subsequent queries. This history can be provided in 2 ways, from the actual chat history or from a user-defined conversation. Azure OpenAI includes conversation history, which can result in a more meaningful conversation. And you also have the option of specifying how many past messages you want to be included within your conversation history. Chat systems can also utilize summarization techniques of the model to save on input tokens. An app can choose to summarize past messages and include that summary in the conversation history, and then provide only the past couple messages verbatim back to the model. Now, if we provide a user-defined example, this is what we call few-shot learning, which provides the model examples of how it should respond to a given query. These examples serve to train the model as to how to respond. For example, by providing the model a couple of prompts and the expected response, it will continue in the same pattern without us instructing it what to do. So if we take the following example, if we just provided "you can't miss this" to the model with no additional context from few-shot learning, the response is not likely to be as useful. Another technique for improved interaction is to divide complex prompts into multiple queries. This allows the model to better understand each individual part and can improve the overall accuracy of our response. Dividing our prompts also allows us to include the response from a previous prompt in a future prompt, and using that information in addition to the capabilities of the model to generate interesting responses. One useful method that you can use to break down your task effectively is to ask the model to explain its chain of thought. By asking a model to respond with the step-by-step process by which it determined the response is a helpful way to understand how the model is interpreting the prompt. By doing this, we can actually see where models have made an incorrect logical turn and better understand how we can change our prompts to avoid the error in the future. The chain of thought prompting technique is best used to help you iterate and improve on your prompts to get the highest quality answer from the model. So let's see how we can use effective prompt engineering in Azure OpenAI with a demo. Okay, so let's start by exploring some prompt engineering techniques in Azure OpenAI. So here I am in the chat playground in Azure OpenAI Studio, and this consists of 3 main sections. So here I've got setup. This is going to be the setup for my assistant, and that's going to set the context for the responses that we get from the model. I've also got the chat section here as well, and that I'm going to use to submit chat messages and also review responses from my model. And then in this configuration section here, this is going to configure the settings for the model of that I'm going to be using. So here I've created a model previously. So if I go back into deployments, got a whole bunch of models here. I'm using this ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. So that's the one I'm going to be using for this chat playground. And in the configuration area, I've got my model selected. So now in the assistant area, I'm going to select the default message template. I'm going to update that. And that's going to set the context for the chat session. So the default system message here, you are an AI assistant that helps people find information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to submit the following query. Get rid of that. Okay. What kind of article is this? And an article, just going to copy and paste off screen. Cool. So Manu Tuolangi, England centre leaving Sale Sharks to join Bayonne at the end of the season. That's just an article I've got off BBC. So I'm going to submit that and let's have a look at the response. And quite obvious, this is a news article about Manu Tuolangi, an England rugby player who's leaving Sale Sharks to join Bayonne at the end of the season. But let's say we want a more specific format for article categorization. So in this assistant setup, I'm going to change this to say that you, remove my cursor, are a news aggregator that categorizes news articles. Cool. There we go. So just apply the changes there. Cool. And under examples, I should add an example. I'm going to click add. And under the user, I'm just going to copy and paste. And the assistant, I'm just going to summarize that as sports. Let me add another example here. Also categorize this. So it's an article about the Oscars. So that's going to be entertainment. So I'm providing some context to my assistant. So if I scroll back up here, now I'll apply my changes. I won't show this again. Continue. So let me try this again. So what I'm going to do, just clear chat. And I'm going to resubmit the following prompt. So what kind of article is this? Severe drought likely in California. Millions of California residents are bracing for less water, etc., etc. So let me press enter now. And that summarized that as an article about the environment. Cool. So what we've done here is we've actually combined a more specific system message here to saying, okay, you're a news aggregator that's going to categorize news articles. And we've also provided some examples of expected queries and responses in a consistent format for what we expect for our results. So here we've got a response back for environment in a format that's consistent with the examples that we've provided it. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is change my system message back to the default template. Then, so that changes are applied. So now what I want to do is add the following prompt and submit that. Okay, so the model has provided a response to satisfy this prompt. So we're creating a list of animals, creating a list of whimsical names for them, and then combine them randomly into a list of 25 animal name pairs. So here are the list of animals. There's the list of whimsical names, Fuzzy Wuzzy, Siggy Stardust. It's quite whimsical indeed. And then here are the combined animal and name pairs. This is what we expect. This is an appropriate response. But let's say what we actually want to do is write a C# program that essentially performs the task that we've described. So what I'm going to do is going to go back into system message and say, you are a coding assistant helping to write C# code. Cool, there it is. I'll apply the changes. And I'm going to resubmit that prompt. Then hopefully what should happen is actually generate some C# code to accomplish that. So there we go. There's our list of animals, list of whimsical names, and then we're going to combine them randomly into a list of 25 animal name and pairs. So there we go. Fantastic. So the model's correctly responded with C# code, and it's doing what we request. So let's jump into Visual Studio and see how we can actually do this using C# code. Cool, so now we're ready to use the Azure OpenAI SDK to consume our deployed model. So if I go into my CS prod file, I've already gone ahead and installed the Azure OpenAI SDK as well as this extensions configuration.json package. Because if I go into my program.cs file, I'm actually going to load all the credentials I need to authenticate to Azure OpenAI from a JSON file. So I've got configuration settings for my endpoint, my Azure OpenAI key, and also the name of my model. And then that allows me to use an Azure OpenAI client to send my requests to. I've also got these 3 variables here for my prompts. So for each kind of example I'm going to go through, I've got a text file that's going to set up my prompt. So for my system message, I'm going to say you are an AI assistant, and the prompt is we're going to write an intro for a new wildlife rescue. So that's going to split it up into these 2 variables here. And then in my chat completions options object, I'm going to set that as my chat request system message for my system prompt and the chat request user message for my user prompt. And I'm going to use that model name that we used earlier in the Azure OpenAI Studio. That's going to be the model I'm going to send my request to. Cool. So let's give this a run. So I'm just going to click run here. So there's my system prompt and user prompt. You are an AI assistant, and I'll ask it to write an intro for a new wildlife rescue. And it's done so. So there it is. Welcome to our new wildlife rescue center, etc., etc. Cool. So that's a very basic prompt. Let's try something different. So if I go into my prompt file, now what I want to do is create an AI assistant that's going to help me write emails. And it's going to say write a promotional email for a new wildlife rescue. Include the following: rescue name is Contoso, specializes in elephants, and call for donations to be given at our website. Let's go ahead and save that and run it again. Let's see what it responds with. Cool, and as you can see, it's returned a response in the form of an email. So we are excited to introduce Contoso, a new wildlife specialist. Unfortunately, elephants continue to face numerous threats, calling our supporters to make a donation. So there we go, providing it, setting the system message to say, okay, you're an AI assistant helping to write emails, and the prompt is we're going to write a promotional email to include the following: rescue name is Contoso, specializes in elephants, and also call for donations to be given at our website, which it's done so. Cool. So to make this a little bit better, just exit out of that. In my prompt, I am going to specify a little bit of content. So I'll just copy and paste it now. So now what I'm doing is, okay, write me a promotional email for a new wildlife rescue. Include the following. So the rescue name of the organization is Contoso, specializes in elephants as well as zebras and giraffes. Call for donations to be given at our website. Include the list of current animals that we have at our rescue after the signature in the form of a table. And this includes elephants, zebras, gorillas, lizards, and jackrabbits. Cool. So if I go ahead and run this, cool. So now we've got our email generated similar to as before, but here we've specified a little bit of content. So at the end of our email, we've got the animals and also the species that they have at the rescue center. So we've specified a little bit of content just to refine the response that we're going to get back from our large language model. Cool. And then finally, what I want to do is show you how you can specify tone in this as well. So I'll just copy and paste. So here it's the same prompt as before, But this time we are telling the users, the system, that they're an AI assistant that helps write promotional emails to generate interest in a new business. We want the tone to be light, be a little bit of chit chat, and always include 2 jokes. Cool. So here we're just giving our system message a little bit of character. So I'll go ahead and run that. And there we go. So it's generated the email as before. Let's have a look. So I hope this email finds you well. Writing da 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 da. But we need your help. Donating is easy. And okay, so here are the jokes at the end. Why did the elephant cross the road? To get to the Contoso Wildlife Rescue. Hilarious. Cool. So it's generated a joke. Can be a banger. Can be some. It might not be funny at all. You can decide. But there you go. So we've refined our system prompt to give this give the response, make it a little bit more conversational, a little bit more light in tone, like we've asked it to. But the user, it's generated what we wanted the model to generate. Cool. So as you can see, it's fairly straightforward to create prompts, craft prompts using Azure OpenAI. The trick is to really refine your prompts to ensure that you're going to get the desired outcome. So that wraps up this video. If you like this video, give it a like. If you have any questions for me, please comment down below. I'm usually quite responsive to questions. I love hearing feedback from the audience. So please feel free to pop questions in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see more videos on Azure OpenAI as well as other Azure content that I do. No matter where you are in the world, I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you all next time.